Hello MUS 2020 students. Here are some helpful tips to compose in MuseScore, especially if you're not super comfortable with music notation yet. Tip number 1, keep it simple. When you create a new score, give it a title, and then when you're choosing instruments, stick with things you know. Don't experiment, and especially don't use things that have transposing features. I like to keep it really within the realm of what I know, so let's do 2 violins and a cello. None of those transpose, everything's easy. Next tip, stay in C major. This is the key signature with absolutely no sharps or flats. It's just blank. It is not, however, the key signature with the X. That is an open or atonal key signature, which is something totally different. Then keep the time signature in 4/4. It's just easier that way. That's the default for Ableton as well. If you're inputting with the QWERTY keyboard and you find that that's too hard, you can always bring up the piano keyboard by hitting the letter P. With the piano keyboard, it's much easier, I find. You just have to select your rhythmic duration, and then from there, you can just go and do whatever you need. The next thing is to save frequently. Really, save very, very frequently. Another tip is to try writing everything out on paper first. This is how I compose, and I find it lets me get my thoughts down quicker. Sometimes I have a piano or a guitar, sometimes I don't. Another tip that's very useful is to make multiple passes when composing. Maybe just do a pitch-only version using quarter notes, and then go back and fix the rhythms. Repeating passages with changes is your friend. Copy and paste entire selections into different areas. Then you can transpose them up or down by an interval, like an octave, to put them in the correct register. Once they're in the right place, you can then start to make changes by going through and adding an accidental, or you can make really interesting adjustments by taking a melodic figure repeating it over at different rhythmic values, and then going through and making random deletions. Then compounding that with another repetition, you can get really interesting effects. So, by doing that, I've got really interesting stuff. One final thing to consider is that if you find that you're not doing well with the harmony and the bass voices in particular, just leave those as whole notes. And then make them very, very long. Oops, that went back to, there it is. There's a whole note. Then you can copy on top of those. And you can also copy those into other voices as well. But again, you'll probably have to transpose those. So, doing that, I've taken a really simple idea of just moving up and down a little bit and made it pretty complex. Let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, I like what I've got here. The only thing I might change is to just add one quarter note here, just to have a little bit more to tie everything together. From here, I would save it, export, and then I could start playing around with it in Ableton Live, where I would do things like change the tempo, play around with the instrumentation, and just generally see what I could come up with. But once more, keep it simple. You don't have to go crazy with this if you're not used to working with standard notation. And with this in particular, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to post in the forums or email me directly.